tonight, somewhere between the last light fading from the sky and the moment you reach for the lamp, something happens just outside your window. You don't see it. You're not supposed to. The yard you walked through this morning, the one with the feeder, the overgrown hedge, that patch of garden you keep meaning to do something about. That same yard is quietly becoming something else. The birds you watched all day are gone. The branches are still. The feeder just hangs there, motionless. And if you pressed your face against the glass right now and stared out into the dark, you'd see nothing. But they're there. 3 feet from your window, tucked into the hedge you almost ripped out last autumn, sitting completely still in the dark, and running a system so sophisticated it makes your home security look like a toy. You think the birds are sleeping, and that assumption? That's exactly what they're counting on. Here's what's actually happening the moment that last bird disappears from your feeder. It isn't retreating. It isn't just resting. It's transitioning into one of the most precisely managed survival states in the entire natural world. That casual disappearance you watched happen every evening of your life, it's not ordinary. It's the start of something urgent, something that makes the daytime world of seeds and open branches look almost peaceful by comparison. A bird's night isn't downtime. It's a different kind of work. Every hour between dusk and dawn carries threats that daylight hides. Owls, cold that can kill a small bird in hours. Predators that don't make a sound. The birds in your hedge aren't tucked away peacefully dreaming. They're navigating all of that at the same time, while looking from where you're standing, completely motionless. But here's the part nobody really talks about. The bird isn't just surviving the dark. I'm watching it, mapping it, learning it, and part of what it's mapping is you. And this is where it gets genuinely interesting. Tonight, while you're asleep, both eyes closed, brain completely offline, the bird sitting in your hedge will do something your brain is physically incapable of doing. It will sleep with one eye open. That's not a metaphor. It's an actual thing. It's called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. One half of the brain goes to sleep. The other half stays completely awake. The eye connected to the sleeping side closes. The other one stays open, alert, scanning. And then, after a while, they switch. Just sit with that for a second. The bird isn't taking turns between resting and watching, it's doing both at the same time. One brain split right down the middle, running 2 completely different states simultaneously. And here's what that half-awake side is actually doing while you think the yard is just quiet. It's filing things away. The normal sounds of your street at 11 p.m. versus 2 a.m., the hum of your heating system kicking on, the way your porch light flickers right before it goes off, the specific sound of a familiar car pulling into the street. All of it gets stored, because anything that breaks that pattern, anything that doesn't belong, needs to be caught instantly. No delay, no second look. The bird in your hedge has memorized what normal sounds like in your yard after dark. That's not nothing. That's actually remarkable. And this is where it gets personal. Birds don't just recognize humans as a general category, not just large creature, probably fine. They recognize you, specifically, your silhouette, the pace of your footsteps on the path, the particular sound your back door makes as opposed to your neighbor's. Research into avian recognition has shown pretty consistently that birds build individual profiles, separating people they've clocked as calm and predictable from people whose movements feel off, erratic, uncertain. Here's the part that kind of gets to me. The birds roosting near your home have already made a decision about you, probably weeks ago, the way you move through your yard in the evening, whether you stop suddenly, whether your energy feels settled or tense. All of that fed into a quiet assessment you never knew was happening. And you passed, apparently, because if you hadn't, they'd be sleeping somewhere else. But staying safe through the night isn't only about staying alert, it's also about staying warm. And honestly, this is where biology gets a little hard to believe. On a cold night, a small bird faces a problem that would genuinely kill you within hours. It has almost no body mass to hold heat. It can't go inside. And if it burns energy all night just trying to stay warm, it'll be too depleted to function by morning. So it does something that sounds almost impossible. It drops its own body temperature, on purpose. Controlled hypothermia, a state called torpor, where the heart rate can fall by around 50% and the body slows down to just enough to stay alive. It's a biological tightrope. Drop too far and the bird can't wake up fast enough as something comes. Don't drop far enough and it burns through everything before dawn. And here's what's wild. That still, silent bird you might glance at through your window? It's not just sitting there. It's running a continuous scan, heat moving through the yard. A cat, a fox, even the warm air from your HVAC vent, all of that registers. Subtle vibrations from something moving nearby. The pressure shifts right before the temperature drops. All of it feeding into a real-time calculation all night long, keeping that bird balanced right on the edge between sleep and survival. And while all of that is going on, one hemisphere sleeping, the other watching, the body quietly managing its own temperature, something else is happening that science is honestly still trying to wrap its head around. Birds are navigating, not moving, not flying, just internally orienting. In the dark, using the Earth's magnetic field, birds recalibrate their positional sense while they rest. There are proteins in the avian eye that are sensitive to magnetic direction, and some researchers now think this process might actually involve quantum mechanics at the molecular level. Quantum entanglement. In a bird, in your hedge. Think about that for a second. The bird outside your window tonight might be 48 hours away from starting a migration, and the recalibration it needs to pull that off accurately, it happens right here, in the stillness, in the dark, while you're 3 feet away on the other side of the glass, scrolling your phone. The night isn't downtime for these animals. It's when some of the most important work happens. But here's the part that genuinely changes how I see a quiet hedge or a tree line. During the day, a lot of these birds want nothing to do with each other. Territorial, competitive. 2 birds at the same feeder is practically a conflict. But at night, something shifts. The same birds that were chasing each other away at noon are pressed together in a communal roost by midnight. Warmth wins over competition, every time. And it's not random either. There's a social order to who sleeps where. The warmest spot, the center of the huddle, goes to the dominant bird. The youngest, the weakest, the ones lowest in the pecking order, end up on the exposed edges. On the coldest nights, that's not just uncomfortable, that's actually dangerous for them. And underneath all that stillness, they're still talking. Micro-vocalizations, sounds too quiet and too high for us to pick up, move between roosting birds through the night. Soft signals, subtle alerts. The whole social network that looks completely shut down from where you're standing is still running, just on a frequency you can't hear. And then, at some precise moment before you're even close to awake, it ends, not at sunrise. Before that, there's a faint pre-dawn light, a gradient you'd sleep right through, and something in the bird responds to it immediately. The torpor lifts, the body temperature starts climbing, the sleeping hemisphere comes back online. And within minutes, an animal that spent the entire night in careful, calculated stillness is fully operational again. That chorus you hear every morning, the one that filters through your window before you've even opened your eyes, that's not just ambient nature noise. That's the sound of survival confirmed. Each voice saying, in the only way it knows how, I made it through the night. And honestly, without ever meaning to, you were part of that. The familiar sounds of your house. The predictable rhythm of your evenings, the hedge you never thought to cut down, all of it became part of the environment that made the night survivable for something small and warm and trying to still be alive by morning. You weren't just a neighbor to these birds, you were a known quantity, a fixed point in an otherwise uncertain dark, and that mattered more than you probably realized. So tonight, before you close the curtains, just take one look. The hedge, the tree line, that quiet corner of the yard that doesn't look like much, because something in there is already watching, already listening, already running systems that make your most sophisticated technology look embarrassingly simple. And I want to ask you something. Have you ever actually heard them before sunrise? That very first sound before the full chorus, before the light, just one voice in the dark. Have you ever caught that? Drop it in the comments. Because I think a lot of people have heard it and never quite knew what they were actually listening to.